Hello and welcome to Encryption, the tech tips and tutorials channel. Welcome back to Linux Zero to Hero. In episode 1, we understood what Linux is and why Linux is used everywhere in servers and in the cloud. In episode 2, we learned basic Linux commands like pwd, ls, cd, mkdir, tots, less and more. Now if you are an absolute beginner, you might still have a major confusion. I can run commands, but I don't understand where things are located in Linux. That confusion is normal. So in this episode, I'll explain the Linux file and folder structure like you are seeing Linux for the first time. What you will do in this video: understand what the root directory / means, explore important folders like /home, /etc, /var, /log, /bin, /user, /tmp, /root. Run commands practically and I will explain what to look for. At the end, we will do practice, a quiz, interview questions and common mistakes. You don't need to memorize everything. Just understand the structure. Repetition will build confidence. Alright, let's begin. The most important concept is in Linux, everything starts from the root directory / the /. Unlike Windows, Linux does not have drives like C drive or D drive. Linux has own single directory tree and / is the top of that tree. That means every file, every folder, every program, every configuration, every log exists somewhere under / directory. Now I'll go to the root directory, cd /. Now I'll check where I am, pwd. If this output is /, it means I am currently at the top of the file system. Now I will list the content of root, ls -al. You will see many directories such as home, etc, var, usr, bin, temp or tmp, root. These are standard directories. Most Linux systems follow this layout so that systems remain consistent. You do not need to understand everything at once. We will take them one by one. Whenever you connect to a Linux server in a company, the structure starts at / directory. So this episode is like learning the map of Linux. Now that we understand what / is, let's go to the safest and the most important directory for beginners, /home. The /home directory is where normal user accounts store their files. This is where your documents and downloads live. Your projects and scripts live. Your learning and practice should happen. Practical demo. First I go to /home, cd /home. Now I list what is inside, ls-al. Each folder here usually represents one user. If I see a folder on my name, its full path is /home/username. Now I go to my home directory using a shortcut that is cd ~tilde. The tilde symbol means take me to my home directory. Now I confirm my location with pwd. If it shows /home/your username, this is like Windows, C, users. Now I list my home directory with ls-al. As a beginner, you should create practice folders and files inside your home directory. This reduces risk and avoids accidentally changing file systems. Now that we know where user files live, let's see where Linux stores system settings. The /etc directory contains system-wide configuration files. Configuration files are settings that control how the operating system behaves, how services behave, how networking works, how accounts and authentication work. A service is a background program that runs automatically, keeps running in the background, that provides functionality to the system. For example, SSH service. SSH service allows remote login. If you check the SSH service using systemctl status ssh.service, you might see it running in the background. You see its status if the service is installed on your Linux machine. Most of the servers already come the service installed, but in the client system or the desktop Linux, you will have to install it manually. Likewise, network service, which manages internet connectivity. Web server service, which serves a website. So /etc is like the settings center of Linux. Practical demo. Now I go to /etc using cd space /etc. Then list what is inside using ls space -al. You will see many files and folders. Each one belongs to some part of Linux or a service. Now I will show a real example using SSH. First, I check the SSH configuration folder using ls space -al space /etc/ssh. If you see a file named sshd_config, that file controls the SSH server behavior. Now I'll open the configuration file safely using ls space /etc/ssh/sssd_config. At this moment, I'm only viewing the file, not editing it. This file contains text-based settings, which means Linux services are configured using text files, not graphical windows. That's one reason Linux is powerful. Everything can be automated and managed using configuration files. Now you might see a line related to port 22. Port 22 is the default port used by SSH. SSH is what allows us to connect remotely to a Linux server using the terminal. I am also in the Linux terminal by doing SSH from my local laptop to the remote server. In real production servers, administrators sometimes change the default SSH port. They do this to reduce automated attacks that scan the internet for SSH on port 22, because this is the default port and everyone knows the port is 22, so they may craft an attack for port number 22. So when people say SSH is running on a custom port, it is often configured in files like this. You may also see settings related to login access, such as whether root login is allowed, which users can log in, authentication methods. These settings are important because wrong values can lock you out of the server. Right now, the goal is not to understand every single line. The goal is to understand where config files live, that services use config files, and reading is safe, but editing without knowledge is risky. I am using less so I can scroll safely. When I am done, I press the Q to exit. Now that we have known where configuration files live, the next important thing is logs. Logs are the first place engineers look when something goes wrong. The /var directory stores variable data, meaning data that changes over time. Inside /var, the most important directory for troubleshooting is /var/log. This is where Linux stores log files. What are logs? Logs are text files that record events such as errors, warnings, services starting or stopping, user logins, system reboots. Think of logs as the diary of the operating system. What logs are used for? When a service fails, if a service like a web server crashes, the log often explains why. It may show wrong configuration file, missing file, permission issue, port already in use. So log helps answer what exactly went wrong. When a system restarts or shuts down, logs tell whether the restart was planned or that was caused by crash or caused by a power issue. Logs help answer why did this server restart. When a user logs in or login fails, logs record time of login, username, source IP address, failed attempts. Logs also help answer who accessed this server and from where. When applications show errors, apps may show a simple message like something went wrong. Logs contain the real technical reason. That's why logs are crucial for debugging. Practical demo. Now I go to /var using cd space /var, then list the files with ls space -al. Now I go to logs using cd space /var/log and then do ls space -al. Now I open a log safely, syslog. Now I am viewing a log file. Notice that logs are made of many lines. Each line usually has a date and time, the component name, and a message. Logs are written continuously while the system runs. That means logs can grow very big, which is why we don't use cat for large logs. We use less so we can scroll and search without freezing the terminal. Also notice that logs are usually stored as plain text. That makes them easy to search, filter and analyze. In real troubleshooting, engineers look for error, failed, permission denied, timeout, and many other keywords. Again, the goal right now is not to understand every line. The goal is to know logs live in /var/log directory. Logs explain what happened and why, and logs are the first thing engineers check when issues happen. When finished, I press Q to exit. Now that we understand configs and logs, the next question is, where do the commands ls, cat and pwd come from? Linux commands are real executable files stored somewhere on a disk. Historically, /bin contains essential system commands. /usr/bin contains most user level commands. Practical demo. Now I check where the ls command is stored using which space ls. The output might be either /usr/bin/ls or /bin/ls. That means the command ls is a real file located there. Now I try more commands. Which space cat, which space pwd, which space mkdir. This shows that Linux does not treat commands like magic keywords. They are programs stored in directories. Linux knows where to search because of something called path. We will cover path later, but for now, remember which tells you the exact location of a command. Commands are stored as files and Linux runs them when you type the command. Since we keep seeing /usr/bin, now let's properly understand /usr and its subdirectories. /usr is one of the largest directories in Linux. It contains installed software, supporting libraries, shared resources. It is a major software area of the operating system. Practical demo. ls-al/usr. You will usually see bin, sbin, lib, share, local. /usr/bin. This directory contains most normal commands used by users and programs. This folder is huge because many installed tools live here. That's why which ls often points to /usr/bin/ls. /usr/sbin. This contains system administration commands. These tools are often used for managing server components. Beginners don't need to use them yet, but later they become common. /usr/lib. This contains libraries required by programs. Many programs share libraries. Libraries are supporting code used by applications. Beginners should not change anything here. /usr/share. Contains shared data like documentation and other program resources. Programs store shared resources here. Documentation often exists here too. /usr/local. Used for custom manual installations. Just do ls-al /usr/local. Also do ls-al /usr/local/bin /2 > That means don't show anything error here, but redirect it to somewhere that doesn't exist so that you don't see any prompt or error in the terminal. Companies often put internal tools here. If you install something manually, it may go under /usr/local. Now let's move to a directory that is meant only for temporary files, that is /tmp directory. /tmp is used for short-term files. Files here may be removed automatically, so do not store important data here. Practical demo. cd /tmp. Then do ls-al. Just try creating a new file using touch demo-temp-file.txt. This is just a file name. You can give it as per your preference, anything. Then do ls space -al. You see the file. You may want to remove the file since only temporary files are stored here. So just you can do that by rm space demo-temp-file.txt. Here we created a temporary file and we deleted it because this directory is for temporary use only. /root is the home directory of the root user, not the file system root. Just do ls space -ld space /root. Permission denied is normal. We will explore the types of users in Linux, ownership and permission later in the Linux 0 to Hero series. The beginner rule is work in /home, avoid /root. Now that we have learned the Linux file and folder structure, it is very important to practice. You do not learn Linux by watching videos. You learn Linux by typing commands and observing outputs. I will now give you a simple practice flow. Pause the video and do this step by step. Explore the root directory. Practice 2. Explore your home directory /home. Practice 3. Read configuration files safely /etc. Practice 4. Explore logs /var/log. Practice 5. Explore /usr and commands. Practice 6. Temporary files /tmp. From here you learn that /tmp is used for short-lived files. Files here should not be important. Do not rush through practice. Repeat these steps multiple times on different days. Comfort comes from repetition, not from memorization. Now it's time for quiz. Now let's do a quick quiz to test your understanding. Pause the video and try to answer before listening to the explanation. What is the root directory in Linux? The root directory is /. It is the top level directory and everything in Linux exists under it. Where should beginners do most of their practice? Inside their home directory. Usually /home/username. This is the safest place to work. What is /etc used for? /etc stores system-wide configuration files. These files control how the system and services behave. Where are logs usually stored? Mostly inside /var/log. Logs record system events, errors and service activity. Why should we not use cat for large log files? Because logs can be very large. Cat prints everything at once, while less allows safe scrolling. Where do most Linux commands come from? From directories like /bin and /usr/bin. Commands are real executable files stored on disk. What is /tmp used for? It is used for temporary files. Files here may be deleted automatically and should not be important. What is the difference between / and /root? / is the root of the file system, while /root is the home directory of the root or the administrator or the super user. If you can answer most of these, you are on the right track. In this episode, we explored the Linux file and folder structure in detail. You now understand what is the root directory / is, where user files live, where configurations file live, where logs live, where commands and software live, where temporary files go, why /root is different from /. This knowledge is extremely important. Without understanding the file system, commands feel confusing, errors feel random, troubleshooting feels hard. With this understanding, Linux feels organized, problems become easier to debug, DevOps and cloud work becomes more logical. Practice what you learned. Explore slowly, don't rush. Linux rewards patience and consistency. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.